Your marbles identification superpowers increase with this installment of Vintage Machine Made Marbles as we take an in-depth look at the Vitro Agate Tiger Eye family. I know nothing about tiger eyes. Hello, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Stephen Barr, and in this video we will study the Vitro Agate Tiger Eye marbles and their Easter egg marbles, and we'll compare them to the other marble manufacturers. So stick around. In all the rich history of American marble manufacturing, the Vitro Agate Company stood as arguably the most successful and influential of them all. During World War II and into the 1950s and beyond, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, while many of the other manufacturers were struggling to stay in business, the Vitro Agate Company was productive and thriving. Led by the ambitious and innovative leadership of plant managers such as Art Fisher, Blaine Lemon, and Lewis Moore, the company produced colorful, quality toy marbles for decades. Their Tiger Eye and Conqueror lines were a breakthrough in the toy marble industry, as the construction of a higher quality glass veneered onto a cheaper clear base glass enabled the company to manufacture attractive marbles at a competitive wholesale price. It took several years for that veneering process to be perfected, but once it was, the company produced many styles with this application, and Vitro Agate remained competitive, even when the mid-century Japanese cat's eye craze took hold in the U.S.A. Vitro collector and enthusiast Chuck Brandstetter had spent a few years of sorting and separating the various Tiger Eye style marbles, and he came up with a reliable numbered system to organize them. And for the purposes of this video content, we will present that numbered system of Tiger Eye types 1 through 4. Here are the type 1s. These marbles will show a colored pole on top, a white pole on the bottom, and then an equator with 2 different colored ribbons. Some of them actually will have the same colored ribbon as shown in this one here and this one. So there's some variations. In fact, there were over 60 different color combinations for type 1s. And they have a clear base, and all those colors are brushed, including the white pole. Here's 2 that are actually 3-color patches that resemble more like parrots. Some people call them parakeets. And there's a few more type 1s up here just to show all the different color combinations. These are super abundant marbles. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit. Vitro had made 2 million marbles a day at one point. And this was a common style that they made, as well as the Conquerors and All Reds. I'm showcasing a few Type 1 group shots here from the Don Miller collection, including some 11/16" shooters that they made, and this unusual piece that shows that pinkish lavender color that Vitro used in their Easter egg marbles. The Type 2 Tiger Eyes are much harder to find. These are also Parkersburg marbles. I have 4 rows of them here. So here are 4 rows of examples. And they usually have one color on the top, another color on the bottom, and an equatorial band of yet another color. So normally they're 3-colored marbles. There are some variations. There's a few here that have 2-colored equators, and here's a few that show the same color poles. These also have clear glass, and usually there's a sliver of open area which creates a sort of a shadow line. You can see it on this one. That kind of adds an extra texture to the marble. They look like mini little spaceships. They're really pretty marbles, and they can get pricey. Right around now they're $20 a piece for a good one in good condition. And here's an example of a very unusual Type 2 variant where half of the equatorial band matches the blue pole colors. Here's the Type 3s. They're similar to the Type 2s, except they'll have a white colored equatorial band. They weren't super common either, but a little easier to find than the Type 2s. And some of these Type 3s are really handsome marbles, especially with the way that white band works with the other colors. Here's a few examples of larger Type 3s, and these are at 11/16. And typically the white equatorial band takes up more real estate with these larger ones, and the colored poles become more like small patches. And open for discussion, here's two oddball pieces that show the Type 3 white stripes, but they have matching poles. These are clear based, and I'm not sure exactly where they should be placed. They may be in the blackie or whitey family, but they're certainly uncommon. The Type 4s look a lot like the Type 3s, but without that shadow line that you see, because they have an opaque white base. That white band on these Type 4s is a brushed veneered white over the white base. So you have to look at them closely. And these are later marbles, are manufactured in the 1960s. And they also have red poles on some of these too. So you have to look at them, you can backlight them actually to see that white brush. And those have some more up in here. To distinguish them from the all reds, that white base, you'll see it with the naked eye on the all reds, but these marbles are brushed with white over a opaque white base. They use a higher quality glass on that white equator. Here's a few more collectible Vitros. We've got some fabulous yellow jackets. That's actually an acro, the imposter on the right. And there's a mix of Buttermilks here and Aquamarines. These are Opals in here. Some P family marbles and some Biscuits with Gravy. Here's a couple of wedding cake marbles, and you'll see that bright white glass. Now that's the same white glass that Vitro used in what collectors normally call either Exotic Conquerors or Fancy Tiger Eyes, and here's a few in here. These are hard to find marbles, and they also go for at least 20 bucks a piece. They're built very much like Tiger Eyes, but I think they're Tiger Eye prototypes. They were earlier than the Type 1, 2, 3, and 4 Tiger Eyes. So these are early versions of Tiger Eyes, really. I'm not sure if they were built in Parkersburg or Vienna, but you'll see that white, bright white cake glass. And the color palette on the Fancy Tiger Eyes wasn't super varied. They usually come in this bright aqua color, orange. They have this dark, medium purple and yellow and red. And this really neat brownish caramel color here. These are really hard to find. Here's a double ingot here. This is two of them squished together. These are the Fancy Tiger Eyes. These can get very pricey as well. I mean, these can go for $30 for a real good one. And those are some collectible Vitros. There we have the Tiger Eyes. Up top, we've got a few parrot examples showing the primary and secondary colors that are very familiar with Vitro, as well as some yellow jacket shooters, a couple of blue devils, and on the right is a proper example of a neon conqueror. This particular piece is 15/16 of an inch and clear based, but with most Vitro styles, you can expect variations with sizes and base colors and swirl colors. Well, I did promise to look at some eggs, so let's belly up to the nest and look at some Vitro Easter eggs. Stay away from my eggs! No, not your eggs, Vitro Easter eggs. And one of my favorite Vitro styles, and one of the most atypical color combinations, are the aptly named Vitro Easter Eggs, and you'll never really see another marble quite like these. These are signature Vitro marbles, and they exhibit a pastel palette of green, lavender, a canary yellow, and a powder blue. They're two seam marbles from the 1950s, and they're built very much like Tiger Eyes, but have a semi-translucent powder blue base. The ones without the green are a little harder to find. And here's a piece of glass vitrolite tile cullet that is most likely an ingredient in their marbles. These are unmistakable and very collectible vitros. Some useful marble identification tips. Here's an example of an open seam that you're most likely to find with the veneer style marbles that were made by Vitro and Marble King. And here is a running gallery of more modern Marble King marbles. Say that 3 times quick. That can easily be mistaken for vintage Vitro Agates. But take note of the glass colors here, as this is a Marble King color palette. And notice the lack of texture in the glass. Some of these marbles can have a transparent base. For those of you who are asking how I clean these printer's trays, how I maintain and keep the dust off them, I use these computer keyboard cleaners. These are, you pump them, they pump with air, and that kicks the dust off everything. So I just wanted to show you that for those who are asking. These wonderful old factory photos shown earlier in the video were provided by Linda Moore Simmons. She's the daughter of Lewis Moore, who was a Vitro plant manager in Parkersburg and worked for Vitro his entire career. So special thank you to Linda and Kathy and Ron and Don for their participation in this video's content. I do have another Vitro video in the channel playlist. Feel free to check that out. Otherwise, be well, and thank you for watching Vintage Machine Made Marbles.